Welcome back to a Boilers Extra addendum, I suppose you would say. I'm Nathan Baird from the David Letterman room at the Indianapolis Star.
Sam King from the Journal and Courier from makeshift home office.
You can name it after somebody. Uh, we have it could be the Jane Pauley room. We have the Jane Pauley something up by where I am from. Just trying to think of other Indianapolis media personalities. Um, some news that has broken since we recorded our last episode of Boilers Extra, which was just last night. At the time, we were saying we did not anticipate another Purdue player going in the portal, but it would not surprise us. And that then played out on Wednesday after Camden Heide became the fourth Purdue player to go into the transfer portal. So again, not a shock, but not one that I think Purdue was expecting as much as it expected. The first three, all these are on a spectrum, but those first three, I think two of them, especially, and then even Miles Colvin, were a little bit more predictable.
Yeah, and this is one that's if you had to say there was going to be another guy leaving, we probably would say, well, Cam Heide makes the most sense because of what his role is and what he probably can give somebody with more minutes. But I really just felt like he fit, especially when you talk about Oscar Clough coming in, and you can move back to his natural position of being a three. That it seemed like a good fit. So a little caught off guard by this, but it seems like an agency announced his signing, and like an hour later he was in the transfer portal. So welcome to college basketball. It's a world where it's ever changing and evolving, and the rules are not what they were even a year ago.
Correct. And I have not spoken to Camden Heide since Friday night after the game, or early Saturday morning, I guess would probably be the better way to describe that time period. And, at that time, you were trying to kind of nudge guys towards getting some perspective on next season and how they think about it. And at that time, he's still talking about, I think actually the phrase he used was, we have something like 17 guys coming back, when he was talking about walk-ons and everything, that could come back, right? And obviously now that number is going to be much smaller than that, but not someone that I got the vibe that it was, 1 foot out the door necessarily. At the same time, there's a lot of moving parts here. There's both the decision that player has to make for what's best for them. There's the decision that Purdue is making, as we talked about on that episode of Boilers Extra, that Purdue has to make, that Matt Painter has to make for the program and the roster in its entirety, not necessarily what's best for each individual player. And when all those things start colliding, I think sometimes it changes the way people are making decisions. So we know that Purdue, or we suspected, all but knew that after Miles Colvin went in the portal, that Purdue was probably going to add at that wing position someone along those lines, if it can find the right fit in the portal. Right now, it would seem like that is a must-have after both of those guys go in the portal. Even though you have Jack Benter coming back, even though you have guys like a Jakari Harris or even a CJ Cox who can sort of do some of those things, I think you want some more length. I think you want some more rebounding help, and you're going to have to probably go in the portal to find someone who fits those physical specs.
Yeah, even though Miles Colvin and Camden Heide played different spots on the floor for this team, I felt like their games were very similar. Super athletic, can stand out on the perimeter and hit threes and stretch the defense. Very good at crashing and rebounding. Obviously, can go up and get a ball high. We saw, the Camden Heide block where he jumped about 12 feet in the air early this season. That really kind of showed off his athleticism, in addition to what he does dunking. And Cam Heide really came on late in the season and was a big spark for Purdue when it needed it. Got his first career double-double, I believe, against High Point in the NCAA tournament. Clearly, if he doesn't return to Purdue, which, now I would say that's probably likely, his last shot at Purdue was a 3 to tie the game against Houston with 35 seconds to go. So the combination of losing both of those, I think, is what probably hurts more than losing one or the other, because collectively they gave you like 10 or 11 points and 6 rebounds, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of production, but that, in addition to what they just do in terms of being program guys, having been around for 2 and 3 years, and what they, especially in Miles' case, what they give you defensively, it's a huge loss when you combine the two of those guys leaving.
So Camden Heide finished the season, not just that Houston shot. I thought that was really the culmination of a surge that had been happening with him over the past few weeks of the year. You can look directly to him as a catalyst for the offensive rebounding, how that became a real source of offense for this team, how they started getting a lot of second chance points, extending possessions. He was a really big part of that, getting a lot of offensive rebounds over the last, several games of the season. Some of their biggest rebounding performances in that stretch had Camden Heide at the heart of it. He also, after enduring a really brutal stretch at midseason, and he's only getting like 1 or 2 shots a game a lot of times, but still to go, I think it was something like 4 of 29 in one prolonged stretch over several weeks, where again, he's only getting 1 or 2 shots a night. It's hard to call that a slump in some ways because the numbers are just always against you. You aren't getting very many chances to get on a roll, but he clearly got on one late in the season because he made 10 of his last 16 up to that, the fallback 3 he hits to tie the game with 30 seconds left against Houston. That's something like 63%. Between that and the rebounding and what you could give you when you went to small lineups, and what he would do at the 4, that I thought was crucial. And it was really him becoming everything they needed him to be in a lot of ways this season, fulfilling the things they needed him to do the most. So at the same time, if Purdue were to add anyone else at the 3, if they were add anyone else at the 4, it's just further kind of squeezing him into a particular spot, as opposed to him using his versatility to get on the floor a lot more, which was what got him all the minutes he got this season.
Yeah, and I think versatility is kind of the key word. He's probably a 3 who was playing a 4 out of necessity, but playing the 4 very well. The USC game in the Big Ten tournament, Purdue doesn't win that game without Cam Heide giving you 9 points and 11 rebounds. Obviously, that was a catapult into the Michigan game where things just kind of fell apart there late in that one. But he carried that over into the NCAA tournament. And when you think about what he gave Purdue at key moments throughout his career, he redshirted obviously 2 years ago and talked about before last season how he was better off for it, and then didn't really get the opportunity as a redshirt freshman, aside from one game against Rutgers where he just could not miss and you had to leave him on the floor. I think he went 7 for 7 in that game. This really kind of felt like the year where he was going to take off. And a lot of people, and probably in some cases unrealistic expectations, expected Miles Colvin and Cam Heide to be superstar players. That wasn't going to happen because they were going to be complementary players to Braden Smith and Trey Coppin-Rand, and then Fletcher Lawyer with what he does. But yeah, Cam Heide was very good in the role that he was given, especially down the stretch of this season.
I mean, everybody outside of 2.5 guys was going to be a role player on this team. Like, it wasn't just going to be an abundance of shots, and you were going to share your minutes depending on what this team needed on a given night. And that was a strength of the team, but it does involve some sacrifice on those individuals' behalf. And I don't really begrudge anyone from wanting to see what else is out there, I suppose. It does, I did kind of look at him as someone who, and I can't remember if I said this about Miles Colvin too, but like, don't you see the upside of being the Mason Gillis of what next year's team could be? To be like that, like crucial 6th guy, play a lot of roles, be so consistent and veteran and important off the bench. And I see the value in that. They may even see the value in that, but that doesn't mean that it's their priority. And again, as we know, Purdue was already looking to bring in other people, and we may look at this 6 months from now and think, well, this is how it probably should have turned out for everybody involved. But as of right this second, I don't know of a visit that's imminent for Purdue, but I would expect that we'll pretty soon start hearing about more traction starting on who are going to be the roster additions that come in addition to Oscar Clough, who they've already added.
Yeah, and we don't know who these guys have talked to in terms of other programs. They could be going to another program with a bigger role, but also very sound program that's got a chance to compete for Final Four next year. So until all that plays out, we don't know. But everybody's looking for something different, whether it's playing time or a larger role, or sometimes finances come into play, things like that. And without talking to Cam directly or an agent linked to him, I don't want to speak for him on why he decided to leave. But I think when you see, maybe what this roster looks like when it's finalized, and where these guys end up, a lot of the sense will be made more so why they did what they did.
So that's our quick add-on for those who listen or watch Boilers Extra. We wanted to tag this on the end because, again, that came out just within 12 hours, I think, of us recording that or so, maybe 13, 14. But an important addition to just how this offseason is going. Do we expect there to be more? No, but we told you that last time. So things could change. I think the more interesting note from here on in probably will be who is coming in, like who is Purdue adding and from where, from what kind of player, and how is that enhancing next year's roster. For Sam King, I'm Nathan Baird. We'll talk to you again soon.